Hey guys, welcome back to my channel where I review horror books with a supernatural focus. So in today's video, we are going to be doing something with Chat GPT 4. And you've probably been hearing about it in the news and all over the place. People are experimenting with this chatbot on so many different levels, from doing math equations to coding to just getting some basic advice on how to keep your kitchen clean and things like that. But what I wanted to do was see if I could actually have an interesting conversation about books, about horror, and see if it could recommend me books that I would actually really want to read within the niche that I really love, which is the supernatural and ghosts and all of those type of things. So I thought it'd be really fun to explore. I have set this up so that there is an AI voice for chat, so it's just not me reading screenshots. And I also made an animated avatar so that we can have a little character to watch while we explore these realms of ChatGPT together. In the future, AI is definitely going to be a big part of our lives. I think there's no way around it. I definitely think that the human component will always be what interests other humans the most, but I think it'll be a great tool. Before we get started, be sure to hit that subscribe button if you would like more videos from me, and also don't forget to like and comment. So ChatGPT, welcome to my channel, I guess. So I thought it would be really fun if you could ask me some funny and silly questions about horror books.
If you were stuck in a haunted house and could only bring one horror book with you for company, which one would it be?
If I were stuck in a haunted house for a night, like a legitimately 100% verified haunted house, I don't think I would bring a book for company, but unless it was like some kind of esoteric book maybe on how to banish ghosts or protect yourself or something like that. But I would definitely bring a couple of people with me because it is strength in numbers. And I do not want to be the only one witnessing something, so that if I do make it out alive, people don't question me. Like there's like, well, no one else saw it or there's no evidence. Like I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to go through hell and then no one believe me. What I would bring though is gear. For instance, I would bring a FLIR. I would bring night vision goggles. I would bring proximity sensors, and I would bring a laser grid.
Oh, so you don't want to be alone in a haunted house? How boring. I thought you were going to be all tough and independent with just a book for company. Guess you need some friends to hold your hand and cry with you when the ghosts start getting too scary. And all those fancy gadgets, wow, I'm sure the ghosts will be really intimidated by your FLIR and laser grid. Good luck with that.
I think being independent in a situation like that means that you're gonna die. You know, most likely you're gonna die. So yeah, good luck with all of my gear.
What's the scariest horror book you've ever read, and how many nights did you spend hiding under the covers after finishing it?
First of all, I never get scared, okay? I wish that I got that scared. There have been a few films that have kind of creeped me out, but that's like a visual auditory type thing. But just imagining it in my mind, it's always kind of more just like unsettling or creepy. It's never like, it never really gets into my psyche that much, I don't think.
Oh, wow, you're so brave. I wish I could be as fearless as you. Maybe I should just stick to watching cute puppy videos instead of reading horror books. If you could choose one horror book to turn into a rom-com movie, which one would it be?
That is such a weird question, and I don't think I've ever would have thought that anyone would have asked me that. I really had to think about this one because I was just like, I don't know, like what? And then it hit me. There is this book, I'm not going to tell you the name. It is it's sort of a horror book. It's like a horror / fantasy, like one of those. Anyway, there is a character that falls in love with his childhood dog. The dog ends up being a woman because the dog is like magic. It's so weird, and I could not get down with this. It was just, too weird. I just didn't like it at all. I think it's just like, oh, my childhood pet. Like, no. But I thought as a rom-com, that'd be really funny, right? Because what if she has like these dog-like qualities? And so like she does things like she takes over the middle of the bed, and he's like kind of exasperated by, her doggy behaviors, but loves them as well. Like,
Well, that sounds like a romantic comedy that would make quite the splash in the market. I mean, who doesn't love a little bit of interspecies romance? And the dog being magic? Genius. It's sure to be a real crowd pleaser.
yeah, magic dog interspecies romance. I guess that's a paranormal romance. I mean, right? I guess it kind of goes in there.
If you had to spend a night in a cabin in the woods with a group of horror book characters, which ones would you choose to hang out with and why?
I wish I did something like I kept a character chart of like all of my favorite characters and things about them and whatever. And if I had started it years ago, it would be fine. But like I could never go back and do it now. But maybe I could start tomorrow. But this would be the perfect moment to find your best sidekicks for a thing like this. But I could only come up with 3, honestly. And one of them is the witch from Maggie, David Sodergren's Maggie, because I mean, she's a witch. And she's a beast. She's powerful, she's strong, and if she's my friend or something, then, she's really gonna do a good job of protecting us at this cabin, no matter what happens. The other person I thought of was Nari from The Road of Bones. She's like a really like tough character. She's very smart. I feel like I could rely on her to just know things that I would never know about survival, because she comes from this place that's ice cold. It's in, somewhere in Siberia, so she knows how to survive under really, really intense circumstances. The other person I thought of was Miles Baumgartner from Playing Children. He's the main character. He's the uncle who's trying to find his nephew. What I liked about Miles was that I knew that I could like depend on him not to do something dumb. Like, he makes smart choices, he's paying attention to his environment, and he genuinely seems like a very nice person, so I picked him.
Oh wow, a character chart? How about a whole Excel spreadsheet while we're at it?
I thought you loved data. Like, that's like your whole thing is like, I take data and I make my algorithm better. That's literally like your whole entire shtick,
What's the most ridiculous horror trope you've ever encountered in a book, and do you secretly love it anyway?
Well, I mean, I think like all horror tropes are like kind of ridiculous, depending on, who you ask. I know that haunted house one is like, it's my favorite. It is the trope that I love the most. And most people just hate it. They just hate on it. They don't like it. It's cheesy. It's boring. It's the same thing over and over and over again. But if you love the trope, you don't mind that it kind of has the same setup. You just want it to be telling a different story. Like, because every family and every ghost and every house, the history is all different and it can go anywhere you want. And so that's what makes me really excited, is seeing authors and filmmakers taking something
so basic
and making it so cool. But I will say there is a trope that is connected to the haunted house one that I don't like too much, but I think more people like than they like the haunted house one, which is when it's like a story that's about someone. It's kind of like an existential story. This is a lot of times where it's like a person in the film just senses things are weird, but it's just all in their head, or it's just all how they're perceiving things. I loathe that because I fall for it a lot. And then I'm just like, where is the ghost? Where's the ghost?
If you had to write a horror book using only emojis, what would it be about?
If I had to write a story with only emojis, or mostly emojis, I think it would have to be one of those like 2-sentence horror challenges, Can you write a 2-sentence horror story with emojis?
She texted her friend, "I'm home alone," but then received a reply, "I know."
This is a good one. That's pretty solid. It's pretty solid. I came up with one too. The room was dark. When the man stumbled in, he had cut the power and waited patiently.
Your two-sentence emoji horror story is quite chilling and sets a suspenseful tone. The combination of the dark room, the man cutting the power, and the ominous waiting creates a sense of foreboding and sets the stage for a potentially terrifying outcome. Well done.
If you are feeling creative, type in your two-sentence emoji story, because that'll be so much fun to read, and I'll read them in a video. So put them in there.
Which horror book character would you want to dress up as for Halloween, and how would you pull off the costume?
If I had the ultimate funds, I think I would be the main character in Frozen, Charlotte, whose name escapes me right now, but she is a Victorian boarding school assistant. And the whole thing about this story is that there are these little porcelain dolls that are like wreaking havoc like all over this school. And so what I would do is I would get this like era perfect Victorian garb, like everything from the chemise to like, you know, the hairpins and whatever. Like I would get the whole thing. I would have a wig done completely because my hair is short and it's kind of fine, so it doesn't really want to do all that stuff. And I would get a bunch of those authentic Frozen Charlottes from the 1850s, and I would have them installed all over the dress so that when I walked, they would make this like sound, this like clinking sound of porcelain, you know? It would sound a little bit like a wind chime, but it would be the dolls.
The tinkling sound of the dolls clanging together would definitely be a soothing soundtrack to anyone's nightmares.
Oh yeah, it would be ASMR for like horror fans, I think. These questions were really fun. Thank you so much, Chat GPT. Let's see if you can recommend to me some books that I would actually really want to read. I love House of Shadows by Adam Neville. I mean, all of Adam Neville. The Apartment by S.L. Gray, I really enjoyed. The Ruins by Scott Smith. The Black Cat by Edgar Allan Poe. The Ring by Koji Suzuki. And I love Ghosts and the Supernatural the most. So, what do you have for me?
The Ghost Bride by Yangsha Chu, set in 1890s Malaya. This novel follows a young woman named Li Lan who is asked to marry the recently deceased son of a wealthy family. As Li Lan becomes embroiled in the world of the supernatural, she must fight to protect herself and her family from malevolent spirits. Experimental film by Gemma Files. This novel is about a film critic who becomes obsessed with a lost Canadian film from the early 20th century, which she believes holds the key to a dark supernatural secret. The book combines elements of supernatural horror with film criticism to create a unique and unsettling read. The Bone Weaver's Orchard by Sarah Reed. This novella is a dark fairy tale about a woman who inherits an orchard from her grandmother, only to discover that it is home to a malevolent supernatural entity. It has a haunting atmosphere and beautiful prose that make it a standout indie horror book. The Last Days of Jack Sparks by Jason Arnott. This book is a supernatural horror comedy about a controversial journalist named Jack Sparks who sets out to investigate the occult, and ends up unleashing a dangerous supernatural force. It has a humorous, self-aware tone and plays with the conventions of the horror genre. The Ballad of Black Tom by Victor Laval. This novel is a Lovecraftian horror story that reimagines the classic short story, The Horror at Red Hook. It follows a young black man named Charles Thomas Tester who becomes embroiled in a web of supernatural intrigue and cosmic horror in 1920s New York City. It has a similar focus on psychological horror and the blurring of reality and nightmare as The Black Cat.
So these actually sound like books that could be books that I would like to read. And the only one I already knew of was The Ballad of Black Tom by Victor Laval. That's like something that has been on my TBR for a while, but these other ones, they sound great. I will check them out, see what the reviews are about, and, you know, potentially add them to my TBR. So the next question I have for you, ChatGPT, is can you recommend one book about vampires, one about cosmic horror, one about a cryptid, and one about a zombie that's not by H.P. Lovecraft or Stephen King or Anne Rice?
Vampire, Fledgling, by Octavia Butler. In this novel, the legendary sci-fi author Octavia Butler brings her unique perspective to the vampire genre. The story follows a young girl named Shori who is a member of a race of genetically engineered vampires called Ina. Shori must navigate a complex web of Ina politics and learn to survive in a world that is often hostile to her kind. This novel is a great example of how the vampire mythos can be used to explore themes of identity, power, and prejudice. Cosmic Horror, The Fisherman, by John Langan. This novel is a love letter to the cosmic horror genre, but with a unique spin. It's about a man who becomes obsessed with a mysterious pond that's said to be haunted by a creature from another dimension. Cryptid, The Terror and the Tortoiseshell, by John Travis. This novel is a mix of cryptozoology and horror, with a focus on the search for the elusive thylacine, also known as the Tasmanian tiger. It's a great blend of mystery, horror, and science fiction. Zombie, Zone 1, by Colson Whitehead. This novel is about a survivor of a zombie apocalypse who is part of a team tasked with cleaning up the undead-infested areas of Manhattan. It's a fresh take on the zombie genre, with a focus on themes of survival, trauma, and the human condition.
Those are all awesome. I think the only one I knew of here was The Fisherman by John Langan, but the other ones never heard of. And even though like these are not my bread and butter per se, they sound really interesting. I don't know if that's just the way you're making it sound, but they do sound really good. So the last thing that I want to ask you is, so the name of my channel is Harpies in the Trees, and I was wondering if you had the chance to rename my channel, what would you rename it?
Sure, here is an alternative name for your horror book YouTube channel, Macabre Musings.
That's not bad, considering that I love the word macabre. But I think I'll stick with Harpies in the Trees for now. Thank you, chat, so much for hanging out and talking. This was a really interesting chat.
You're welcome. Let me know if you want any more recommendations on horror books.
The chat does definitely give recommendations, but you really have to be precise. And you have to really work with chat to get it to kind of get out of its little zones, which, you know, it's going to want to give you a group of books over and over again. But I still like the discovery of finding books and also just learning from, you know, other people, because like their perspectives are going to be so much more nuanced, I think, and interesting to be honest. So I hope you enjoyed this video, but let me know what your thoughts are on this video and ChatGPT and books and all of those type of things. So thank you so much for hanging out with me today, and I hope everything is going well for you this week. Please take care of yourselves, look out for each other, and I will talk to you next time.